week one came out. Obviously, we saw Jets Steelers. How done of a deal is it with Aaron Rodgers going to Pittsburgh?
I think that it's just a matter of time before he announces it. I think he'll be there at some point during the OTAs, which begin on May 27, possibly at some point this week leading up to the Memorial Day weekend. He'll make the announcement. I think that meshes with everything that's kind of been out there. And I was told by someone who knows Aaron Rodgers but doesn't have specific knowledge on this issue, and it makes sense. From his perspective, there's two ways he could have been a distraction. One, by not being signed with the Steelers and kind of hovering, or two, by being signed with the Steelers and staying away from the first two phases of the offseason program, which he hates, by the way. He does not like phase one and phase two. And from his perspective, it's less of a distraction to not be on the team at all and have everyone wondering when he's going to show up than to sign and not be there and have these questions lingering. Why isn't he there? Is he committed to be with the team? Yada, yada. So it makes sense. And he views the OTAs as the more important preparation. They have 6 days, I believe, of OTAs before their mandatory minicamp. So I think he'll be there by the time the OTAs start, or if not when they start at some point during the OTAs.
By the way, I think he's right. If you're choosing between those two distractions, I think he chose appropriately.
Absolutely. And look, the guy's always a distraction, but the Steelers don't care because he's dramatically better than anything they've had at the quarterback position since Ben Roethlisberger retired. And they know that. And that's one of the reasons why they've been willing to wait. And I really don't think their plan is Mason Rudolph backed up by Skylar Thompson. They're waiting for Aaron Rodgers. And if something completely unexpected happens and they don't get him, then they'll make another plan. But they expect Rodgers, and Rodgers could be the difference between them getting to the playoffs almost every year and not winning a playoff game at all since the 2016 season.
And Mike, so no resentment then from players that are saying, well, I don't get to pick and choose when I'm coming in. I'm just going to show up on time and be a team player.
Cam Hayward had the comment fairly early in this courtship of Aaron Rodgers that you either want to be a Steeler or you don't. Now, he backtracked on that, but that meshes so thoroughly with what I hear from Steelers fans, and I've been in and around Pittsburgh almost my entire life, and Steelers fans think it's unbecoming to the team to be in this posture where they've bent the knee and they've made the proposal and they're just waiting, and they're waiting, and they're waiting. In the minds of Steelers fans, Aaron Rodgers should want to be a Steeler. There should be nothing to think about. He should rush through the door the moment the door is cracked open. And I just generally believe Mike Tomlin's done a good job of keeping guys on the same page, and they've done a good job of keeping this a secret if at the end of the day they've been told. And the belief is they've been told he's going to be there. The belief is he's been given the playbook and whatever other information he would need to be studying. So when he shows up, he'll be ready to go and put in that preparation that comes in advance of when it really matters in training camp.
Yeah, it just feels so on Three Rivers. I was talking to TJ Jefferson about that on the Rich Eisen show today because he's from there. And it just seems like it's anathema. It's just so not a team first mentality. So I think it doesn't work. Yeah.
Well, and another thing that the Steelers have done this year, and this may be the desperation to try to finally win a playoff game, the trade for DK Metcalf and the contract for the former Seahawks receiver, 5 years, $150 million. They've never done anything like that. They've never given market money to a stranger to the team. And that introduces a whole host of dynamics. What are they going to do with TJ Watt? And we knew what it meant ultimately to George Pickens. The town wasn't big enough for both of them once they made that investment in DK Metcalf. So they are breaking from a lot of the things that we're used to seeing from the Steelers, because ultimately what they've been doing for nearly a decade hasn't delivered a playoff win, and they seem to be intent on trying to change that. And we'll see if Rodgers makes that difference.
You know, you mentioned the Steeler organization and the manner in which they're addressing this. Hats off to them. I think the Steeler organization, from Art Rooney throughout the organization, has shown a remarkable patience and a remarkable grace and equanimity in how they're handling all the questioning, all the media. I think they're handling the situation and the apparent uncertainty, even if they're not uncertain, really remarkably well.
Yeah, and it's easy to be calm and confident if you know deep down he's going to show up. It'll be interesting to see what they do if he doesn't, if he changes his mind and retires. But there has been just this quiet sense from the key players, not players, but the owner and the GM and the head coach, that this is all going to work itself out, and everyone will be very happy when it does. I think back to 2009 when Brett Favre signed with the Vikings, halfway through training camp, maybe deeper than halfway through training camp. And there was a report that there was a schism. That was the first time I was introduced to that word since SAT prep. There was a schism in the locker room over Brett Favre versus Tavares Jackson, who was the incumbent starter. You know how long the schism lasted? Not even one practice. Brett Favre shows up and starts throwing darts all over the place, and the players understand, okay, now we know. Now we know. And I think the same thing's going to happen when Aaron Rodgers shows up and the Steelers players see what he can do. They'll be like, okay, we understand why you waited as long as you did for this guy to make up his mind.
Check out new episodes of What the Football with Suzy Shuster and Amy Trask every Tuesday. Watch us on the Rich Eisen Show YouTube page or follow and listen wherever you get your podcasts.